I never believed in ghosts, at least not until I spent a night in the old hospital on the edge of town. The place had been closed for decades, abandoned after a fire gutted one of its wings. Most people avoided it, but for me it was an irresistible challenge. I was a nursing student at the time, desperate to prove to myself that fear was only an illusion. A few friends dared me to sneak in and spend the night. I accepted without hesitation, telling myself that hospitals were just buildings, nothing more. But the truth is, the moment I stepped through those rotting doors, I felt something watching me. The entrance smelled of mildew and burned wood. The tiles beneath my feet cracked as I walked deeper into the main corridor. Faded signs still clung to the walls. Ward A, Pediatrics, Surgery. The silence was heavy, broken only by the occasional drip of water somewhere in the distance. I wandered aimlessly, flashlight in hand, until I reached a pair of double doors with rusted handles. Half-broken plaque read, Ward C, Psychiatric Patients. My chest tightened. Everyone in town knew the rumors about this ward. They said the fire had started here, and that many patients had burned alive, trapped in their rooms. Some swore you could still hear their screams at night. I told myself it was nonsense. Still, my hands trembled as I pushed the doors open. The air inside was colder, unnaturally so. My breath fogged as I stepped into the hallway. Broken beds lined the walls, their mattresses rotting with mold. Old medical charts lay scattered on the floor, ink faded but still legible. One chart caught my eye. The patient's name was blacked out, replaced with a single number. Number 43. Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. I shoved it back down, telling myself it didn't matter. As I moved deeper into the ward, I began to hear something faint. At first, I thought it was the wind moving through the broken windows, but the sound was too deliberate. It was a whisper. Low, drawn out, impossible to understand. I froze, holding my flashlight steady. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. No answer, just silence. I tried to laugh it off, blaming my imagination. But as I turned to continue, the whisper returned closer this time. My light flickered, and for a split second, I saw something at the far end of the hall, a figure standing motionless in the shadows. I raised the beam of my flashlight, but when the light reached the end, it was gone. I wanted to leave, but some part of me needed to see more. I moved forward, my shoes crunching on broken glass. The whispers followed, sometimes behind me, sometimes ahead, always just out of reach. Eventually, I reached room 9. The door was half open, as if inviting me inside. Against my better judgment, I pushed it open. The room was empty, except for a single bed frame and peeling wallpaper. A flashlight landed on something scratched into the wall, words messy and frantic. "Don't listen to them." The whispering grew louder. I backed away, my heart hammering. That's when I noticed something else, deep scratches along the floor, as though someone had been dragged out of the room, leaving claw marks behind. The whispering became voices now, overlapping, muttering in tones I couldn't understand. It was like standing in the middle of a crowd that I couldn't see. Then, all at once, the voices stopped, and I heard a single word, clear and sharp, whispered directly into my ear. "Stay." I spun around, but no one was there. My flashlight cut through the empty room, revealing nothing but decay. My instincts screamed at me to leave. I rushed into the hallway, trying to retrace my steps, but something was wrong. The corridor stretched farther than before. Doors that I hadn't passed earlier lined the walls. Each one was slightly open, and behind each door I heard breathing. Slow, steady breathing. I ran. The hallway seemed endless, twisting in ways that defied the layout of the building. My flashlight flickered again, and in that split second of darkness, I felt hands brush against my arms. Cold, bony fingers that vanished as the light returned. Finally, I stumbled into a large ward room. The windows were boarded shut, but moonlight leaked through the cracks. Dozens of rusty bed frames stood in rows, and on every bed there was a shape. At first I thought there were piles of sheets, but as my eyes adjusted, I realized they weren't empty. The shapes were bodies, patients, their skin gray and blistered, their eyes milky white. One of them sat up, its neck twisted at an unnatural angle, bones cracking as it moved. Then another sat up, and another. Within seconds, the entire ward was rising, staring at me with hollow, lifeless eyes. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. The patients began to whisper in unison. Not words, but a single sound, like the hiss of air escaping a pipe. They pointed at me, their fingers trembling, and the whisper grew louder until it shook the walls. That was when I noticed the farthest bed. Unlike the others, it was empty. Sheets were pristine white, untouched by time. And above it on the wall was a name carved into the plaster. 43. The whispering stopped, and I realized the bed wasn't empty anymore. Lying on the bed was a figure, thin, motionless, its face obscured by shadow. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I raised the beam toward it. It was a man, or what was left of one. His skin was stretched tight across his skull, lips torn into a grotesque grin. His eyes were open, milky like the others, but unlike them, he was alive. He blinked, and he sat up. "Number 43, I whispered without thinking. His head snapped toward me, too fast, as if his neck had no resistance. He smiled wider, revealing jagged, broken teeth. The patients around him fell silent, waiting. "You came," he said, his voice a rasp that seemed to echo from the walls themselves. I stumbled backward, shaking my head. I shouldn't be here." His smile never faded. "They told me someone would come. Someone who could hear us." The other patients began rocking back and forth, muttering again in their strange chorus. The sound filled the room, pressing against my ears until I thought my skull would crack. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, trying to drown them out. The man on the bed tilted his head. "Stay." The word hit me like a physical force. My knees buckled. My vision blurred. The whispering became clearer, and I realized what they were saying. Not random noise, not nonsense. They were repeating a single phrase, over and over. "Join us." I scrambled toward the door, but it slammed shut before I could reach it. I yanked on the handle, pounding my fists against the rotting wood, but it didn't budge. Behind me, the patients began to climb off their beds, moving in jerky, unnatural motions. Their bare feet scraped across the floor as they closed in. Their mouths hung open, whispering in unison, their milky eyes fixed on me. I turned back to the bed.
Ow.
Number 43 was standing now, towering over the others. His bones cracked with every step as he moved closer. "You don't belong out there," he rasped. "You belong here, with us." I shook my head violently, tears streaming down my face. No, this isn't real. This can't be real." He reached out his hand, fingers long and skeletal. I felt the cold radiating from him, even before he touched me. Desperate, I swung my flashlight at him. The metal cracked against his skull, sending him stumbling back. For a moment, the patients screamed in unison, a shrill sound that rattled the windows. I bolted for the far side of the room, searching for another way out. In the corner, half hidden behind broken bed frames, I spotted a narrow doorway. Without thinking, I sprinted toward it. I slammed through the door and into another corridor. My heart pounded as I ran, not daring to look back. The whispers followed me, echoing through the walls, slithering into my mind. Every hallway looked the same, peeling paint. Broken lights, endless doors. I turned corner after corner, praying to find an exit. But the building seemed alive, reshaping itself to keep me inside. Finally, I stumbled into a stairwell. The stairs were cracked and unstable, but they led upward. I climbed as fast as I could, the whispers crawling up behind me. At the top, I burst through another door and froze. I was back in Ward C. The beds were there, the bodies. And in the center stood number 43 waiting for me. "No," I whispered, collapsing to my knees. "This is impossible." He stepped closer, his grin wider than ever. "You see now? There is no leaving." The fire burned the walls, but it couldn't burn us. We remained forever. The patients circled me, their whispers rising into a deafening chant. My flashlight flickered one last time, then died. Darkness swallowed the room. I felt cold hands grip my arms, my legs, my throat. I screamed, but the sound was drowned by their voices, and then silence. When I woke, I was lying in a hospital bed. White sheets, sterile walls, the faint smell of disinfectant. For a moment, I thought I had been rescued. But then I noticed the number etched into the wall above me, 44. And from the bed beside mine, a voice whispered, "Welcome."